I just felt this sense of dissatisfaction, and I wanted to resolve that. And then psychedelics happened and changed everything. Sure. So my life before psychedelics was probably the canonical story of an American boy. I had two parents, a couple grandparents that loved me, and I felt very fortunate. We weren't rich, but we certainly weren't poor, kind of squarely middle class. And I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do: work hard in school, play sports, don't get in trouble, although I did a little bit of that, of course. And I had a pretty big setback when I was 19 years old. I got really sick, and this autoimmune disorder basically derailed my entire life. I had to drop out of school and spent about 9 months on my couch in my mother's basement. And that isolation soon led to depression. That depression soon led to an addiction to sleeping pills that lasted 10 years. At the time, it was devastating. I felt like a zero. So as I got healthy, I started living a life where I was doing all the things that I thought I was supposed to do. I was a CPA. I worked in years as an accountant. I sold to consumers. I sold to other businesses. I was working my way up the corporate ladder. And it just felt like, it was like Agent Smith said in The Matrix, like, I can almost smell it and taste it. Something's off. Can't put my finger on it, but just something felt off. And then psychedelics happened and changed everything. The way that I saw psychedelics could be used in a meaningful way was really by accident. So I had dabbled recreationally maybe 3-4 times in my late teens, early 20s, college and high school. Then I went probably a dozen years without touching it or even really thinking about it. And so fast forward, I'm in this posh nightclub in LA, and just by sheer luck, on the biggest dose I'd ever done, it was 3.5 grams, I veered off from my friends and I went into a room by myself. And for the first time in my life, I went inwards with magic mushrooms. And in that experience, I met God. And I know it sounds crazy, but I met God. And that experience was a major demarcation point in my life. And I started to change in these beautiful, subtle, but profound ways. I noticed that my career started taking off. I noticed that my interpersonal relationships became better. I noticed that my ability to speak extemporaneously improved. My creativity, my cognition, my sense of purpose was all aligned in a way that I never knew before that. What I was looking to overcome, transform, what I was curious about was this sense of reaching my potential. And I'm talking about business, professional, social, as a brother, a son. I was curious about just truly being exactly fundamentally who I am. I just felt this sense of dissatisfaction, and I wanted to resolve that. The background is I had done this monthly practice for years, of usually in the range of 2 to 4 grams. But I've been hearing stories about larger doses, and I was just curious because I have such a relationship now with the magic mushrooms that I wanted to know, what is it like when you get to an amount that feels a little bit scary for me. I don't know where it came from actually, but it was almost like a download. It said 9 grams. That's how much I'd like you to do. And I said, okay, that's a little terrifying, but okay. And so going into it, knowing this was going to be a big journey, I really wrestled with, what do I want my intention to be? I'm friends with the team at Guella, and they gave me these intention cards as a gift to kind of product test. And they're really wonderful. And so the day of the journey, I still couldn't settle on the intention. The day of the journey, I pluck it, shuffle it, and just pull one randomly. And it said, show me how to make the most of the opportunity in front of me. And so I did that. And I engaged on this 9-gram journey. Needless to say, it was life-changing, and 3 big takeaways. The first one was a museum tour of my recent accomplishments. And it's hard to articulate as much of this is, but it felt like I was 9 years old again. And my deceased grandfather, was like, he grabbed my hand and said, come here, slugger. Let me show you. Let's walk through some of the things you've done recently. And the last few years of sacrifice, I had a company that was successful and then crashed. It's been tough. And there's so many things that in my mind I've done all these examples of things that I thought that it was just me, that no one else saw. And this higher dimension being that kind of formed itself as my grandfather, it made me feel like I was 9 again. Said, look at all the things you have done. Look at all these beautiful things you have done. It's meaningful in a way that's difficult to describe. And I've never had anything like that before or since. It just gave me a sense of all the things you do, the universe notices. It's just really comforting to see that. The second takeaway was that one thing, one change, one idea can be like a butterfly effect that changes everything. That helped me because I'm trying to figure out how to make the most of this situation. And about 25 minutes into the trip, as I was fully lifted off into it, it was like I got hit by a thunderclap from Zeus from on high in Mount Olympus. And it said, Ray, move to Medellin. And so I said, okay, all right. That's a little bit aggressive, but okay. And I'm going to move to Medellin in about a month. And we'll see where that takes me. And I've already started to see some fascinating ripple effects from that. And I'm thankful for that experience. And then the third takeaway was there's all this talk about bad trips. I think bad trips is the wrong word. I think there is no such thing. That's just me. I think there are tough trips, but there are deep cleanings, just like you need to go to the dentist. Sometimes you need to clean the gunk up here in the neural networks and the old noggin. It's been so long for me because sometimes the tough trips I think are only in the beginning and then later it's pretty rare. And I wanted to have a tough trip. And so going into this 9-gram journey, I actually broke some of the rules that I normally set out. The night before, I drank some alcohol, smoked a little cannabis, ate some junk food, and leading up to it in the morning of, I listened to some songs that were a little bit negative. They had some lyrics right as I was lifting off, and the lyrics, they say you're not supposed to listen to have lyrics, and yet the experience was still completely blissful. What it taught me was that once you have done the cleaning, and if you continue doing some of the maintenance work, the vast majority of these trips are blissful, illuminating, and downright playful. And that is a message that I wish everybody knew about psychedelics. This trip was pretty recent and still grappling with some of the takeaways. But as I look back on it just a few weeks ago, I'm just very thankful. I would describe my transformation as a caricature of the character that I thought I was supposed to be into an absolute, unequivocal manifestation of my true self. I am completely and utterly comfortable in my own skin, being as weird, as serious, as playful as I need to be in all situations. And it is just completely relaxing to know that wherever I go, I can just be myself. And I'm surprised at how I end up being the most charming, the most articulate, the most engaging version of myself when I stop trying. It's just such a relief to just go into any situation, social, romantic, business, and just show up and be myself, which sounds simple, sounds cliche, but that's what the transformation was like for me, and it's liberating. What integration looks like for me is as I come back from a journey, one, it's writing it down, journaling the experience, all of it, the next day. As much as you can, get it out because you're going to forget it. And then from there, what is the new habit or change you're going to engage? Keep it simple. Don't add 15 new habits. Don't make 15 changes. Just at least one. For me, Medellin, this move is a big one. In prior trips, it's been adding all those aforementioned habits and having them kind of stack on each other. So I try to keep it simple as I approach integration. One new change, one new habit. One tool or resource that I would recommend to someone starting their journey is buy some physical accoutrement that you will need to start growing your own mushrooms. Look up one of these Uncle Ben's Tech or Broke Boy Tech, as they call it. There's some YouTube tutorials, and just let it be there sitting on your living room table as a reminder of, oh yeah, I had an intention to start exploring, and let that be a physical embodiment of your intention.